Hello, everyone. This is Rona Palmer from eMaint Enterprises, and thank you so much for joining us for this month's Best Practices webinar. And I'd like to start by clarifying the purpose of our Best Practices webinar series. As many of you know, eMaint is a CMMS software provider, and as such, we offer quite a wide array of different webinars and educational offerings, including eMaint product demonstrations and product training. Frederic, are you on the line with me? Just want to make sure you can hear me.
Yes, good morning.
Great, good morning. So can you advance the slide, Frederic? And our Best Practices webinar series really focus not on our software, but on maintenance strategies. And we invite speakers from a variety of backgrounds to share their knowledge. And as many of you know, or you can see from our logo, eMaint became part of the Fluke family last fall, which has really opened up an exciting, it was really an exciting event for our team, because we now get to work with and know many new subject matter experts. So I'm really pleased to have with me today Frederic Baudart, who is the lead product application specialist at Fluke, who will be presenting today's topic. And Frederic, can you advance the slide and allow me to introduce you to our listeners? And Frederic has been in the industry for over 2 decades, as you can see, and he is an engineer and a product application specialist for Fluke, specializing in electrical, thermal, mechanical, and the condition monitoring product lines. And Frederic, I know you've been in this industry for a while, and this topic seems to really have caught the attention of, we've had nearly 1,000 registrants, and for some reason this is really this is a topic that's really resonating, I should say, with our listeners. And maybe you can start by, while people are logging in, telling us a little bit about why you chose this particular topic and why it's important.
Sure. I think then over the past probably the past few months, and I'd say the past 2 years, talking to a lot of our customers and really attending a number of trade shows, it is quite obvious there's a shift on the way then either our customers and customers in general are doing preventive maintenance. And not only are doing, it's the way they're looking at it. And so I thought it was important to actually have some kind of presentation that speaks about this. And I would say then it goes even further, is that when we even look at our own company, there's a big cultural change about not just to be just a company about tools, but really about providing information and knowledge to our customers with the change in preventive and proactive maintenance in general. And that's why I thought it was important to at least have an initial conversation with customers, which tend to resonate pretty well with most of our customers in general.
Excellent. Well, before I turn things over to Frederic and allow him to go through his slides, just a few quick housekeeping items. We are recording today's session, and we'll share a recording with everyone who's on the line with us today. So I have all of your phones, for our listeners, all of your phones muted so that we can get a nice clean recording. But Frederic has agreed to stay through the end of the hour and answer questions and do some Q&A. So please, at any time during the presentation, type your questions in the question feature in GoToWebinar, and I'll read them to Frederic at the conclusion of the session. He's also agreed to share a PDF of the presentation as well. And we'll have a brief survey at the end of today's session, and there'll be a little checkbox where you can request a copy of the materials. All right, so with that, Frederic, I'm going to turn things over to you to get us started.
Sure. So, by the way, good morning to everyone. So, as I move forward, and I will start discussing a little bit some of the proactive maintenance and the evolution, I kind of wanted to grant it everyone because obviously there's quite a few of you on the call, and I'd like to kind of set up the stone. And essentially, the first questions then our customer asking us on how to either set up a program, look at reactive versus proactive or predictive maintenance is really what they're really looking for when they're doing this. And as the first question, then just about any maintenance manager or even technician for that matter they have to ask themselves. And obviously, it may sound obvious to a lot of the people, but some of the key things right here are really the proactive maintenance. That's what they're really looking for in terms of evolutions. And what that means is it's really an evolution going from reactive to preventive to predictive. There's multiple ways to do this, and we'll speak a little more to it about it. So when you talk about proactive maintenance, you talk about really try to prevent some unexpected failures. They could happen with any of the equipment, and it could be tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. It really is also about planning ahead. I think that's a key things right there, and that's a big shift, and it is not always easy with some of the difficulty that you have in each of the facility with either timing, scheduling, or even the amount of people, the resource that you have at your disposal. And it really is, you have to have some kind of increase on maintenance interval, just to make sure then if you say that you're going to do something, then you need to follow up on it, and not just we're going to start a program and then eventually the program falls out because you're not doing this on a regular basis. All of these really will help to standardize some of your practices and will help you to establish a good program overall. A lot of our customers actually also talking about energy efficiencies overall, which is really all about eliminate waste energy for some of the machines they're running. And it could be motors, pumps. It could be also electrical. Well, we had quite a few of our customers who actually have told us, hey, you know, we're getting the power from the local PUD, but we're not sure that our system is properly running with this. So a lot of power quality questions comes up often, along with thermal or vibration. And so all of these are really, really critical in order to properly run your system. As an example, for example, fighting hidden energy loss in the data centers. That is one of the key elements that we have seen with some of our customers as well. I think the third aspect is really the safety of the compliance. There's no questions, and being that I was a service manager, it kind of go hand in hand. It's very important for me. Is be able to do the job at a safe distance with a tool to help you to do this. So obviously, some of the Fluke tools that we have designed, we're designed with this in mind, with the importance of the safety aspect, being away from some of the equipment and be able to capture either a thermal imager, capture the data without being in danger. Along with that, taking the equipment offline, I think that's a big issue as well. And overall, to perform the maintenance in a safely manner. As I move forward, some of the things that we keep hearing from our customer, and then I have seen actually on site quite often, some of the issue that we have is really multiple ways. But when you think of it, they're often in about just 2 or 3 categories. And what I mean by this is the 3 categories is often electrical, mechanical, and thermal images, so temperature change or condition change. Depending on the application and the preventive maintenance that you have, you may see one or more of these. Often it could be service interruptions, machine failures on motors and pumps, critical failures as well at any time, and then energy cost, big energy cost, and poor insulation, outdated assets, bad bearings. That's one of the big things. Along with waste energy, and as I mentioned earlier, waste energy it is a big factor for our customers right now. All of that, obviously, with the safety aspect that goes from electrical. So again, it talks again about the three, which is the proactive maintenance, the energy efficiency, and the safety compliance from the previous slide. When we really talk about the evolution of maintenance, and obviously there's different way to think of it, and quite frankly, you may have the managers overall in different facility, different market, they would have a different way to looking at it. But from the basic on how you're looking at this is really with threefold. The first one is really about the reactive maintenance. And quite frankly, even in 2017, we do have a lot of our customers who are still having a lot of issues, and a lot of our customers are still in reactive mode more than anything else. And it's really run to failures. Often they don't act quickly. They wait until the equipment fails, and it really boils down to either it really boils down to a few things. It's just then some of the equipment may not be in need of let me rephrase this. Some of the equipment may not be in need to actually be maintained on a regular basis, but most of the time it's just either they don't have the personnel available, or they simply need to or they simply need to just schedule-wise. They don't necessarily have the time. A lot of our customers are slowly moving from a reactive to preventive maintenance. A lot of them that we discuss, that we approach, talk about calendar-based preventive maintenance, which is, it speaks about the way they prepare their maintenance overall, and the shift really allows them to avoid some of the issue with their machine and unnecessarily repair. Some of the programs they put together can be costly, and often you really have to have a buy-in from the leadership in order to move forward. But I think then a lot of our customers are start to look at having a preventive maintenance, and really it comes down to multiple ways. It could be preventive maintenance based on the calendar, also based on the tools that they have, but truly based on the needs. And there's a big shift towards there. Along with that, we have also a few of our customers who really are starting to do condition-based and predictive maintenance. So the condition monitoring is a big part of it. They're trying to really be ahead of the curve in order to not only not have a fault, but also to try to maintain the equipment and be really thinking ahead of time prior even a failure, or anticipate when the motor will fail. So one of the things then I often talk about it is that there's a survey that came in back in 2016. They talks about predictive maintenance, and it was done by the Plant Service magazine. And when I was reading this on a couple of occasions, there's about 4 questions that really kind of were at least speaking to me, piqued my interest, and I like to share to see actually where the technology as well as the preventive maintenance program are going towards. So some of those questions, and I picked 4 of about 5 or 6 questions. Really, I wanted to kind of discuss a little more. The first one is really about the technology. What technology have they deployed? And I think then later on you'll see there may be a question towards this, the full question, which is really when we're looking at it, various customers have various thoughts and needs on the type of technology that they would need, and as well as to deploy it. But one of the things that keeps coming back, obviously there's the vibration, there's the ultrasonic, corrosion, and infrared. One of the things that I hear more and more often from customers is really about having a predictive modeling software. And that's an important factor, and obviously has grown from 2014 to 2016. And the software portion and analysis of software and data is really a key factor that we're going to keep talking about it. At the end of the day, when you look at it, it almost doesn't matter what type of technology you have and what type of equipment you have. What most of our customers are looking for is really, how do I get the data and what kind of decision can I make with the data? And I think that speaks to a lot of our customers to moving from reactive to preventive to predictive. The second question really is what type of asset managed by PDM solutions? And really, when you're looking at it, is really mechanical, electrical, and you have also the it's primarily mechanical and electrical. Those are the two things that we see the most often and hear the most often. And it speaks actually towards that question that was on the survey. Although any other one are very important, HVAC as well as an important factor, really is really the mechanical, electrical from all the motors. The next one is really about where their customers are slowly investing. And that was an interesting one for me because it was actually prior I was reading this at the same time or prior the acquisition with eMaint as a CMMS platform. And interestingly enough, actually this actually came up. And you can see then in relation to question number one, about the type of PDM technology they have deployed, the CMMS and predictive software are really the one that have a double-digit growth from 2 years ago, actually from 3 years ago now. And that really speaks to the volume on where people in plant manager, maintenance managers, and anyone is investing in terms of PDM technology. Which it fits very well with what we're trying to do as well. The last one is the data collections. And that was actually an interesting one, is that when you think of it, we do still have a lot of our customers who talk about, I have a piece of paper, I have a pen, I have a clipboard, and this is how I capture my data. Or I have customers who have a logbook. I have a perfect example with one of my customers down in California is managing a big arena, and they have about 4 or 5 chillers, and they have to take measurement on their chillers. I think it's about every day or every other day. And essentially, they have 14 points of measurement for each of the chiller, from temperature, vibrations, you name it. And interestingly enough, is that instead of doing this from a more digital point, they're still doing this manually on a logbook. And the thing is, if you do this on a logbook, it just stays there. No one sees it. The plant manager doesn't see it unless he actually has to go to a logbook. So it's great to take this on a daily basis, but if you don't start to trend and don't start to look at it and be able to share the data, then at that point, you can't make good decision about when do you need PM, how would you need the PM, the type of technology that you would need for this particular equipment, and if there's any failure. So you're now moving from much further than potentially a preventive, but definitely not a predictive. And so as you can see here, two things speaks on that last questions is really about still a lot of people are doing paper-based system, even so it's decreasing from 3 years ago. But still a lot of people are doing it. And number two is that when you think of a wireless sensor, a lot of our customers are talking about anything that can be wirelessly monitored is a big plus for them. So I anticipate then from 2017 to probably 2020 and 22, we will see a very large amount of our customers will say, I need to monitor this and I need to monitor this wirelessly. in any way, shape, or form that they can in order to capture the important data. And the important data is not just on $1 million generators. It could be on a $5,000 motors, but they have 50 of them. They got to be able to monitor this and have the data back to make the right decision. So this is, I wanted to kind of get some opinion from you guys and really ask you one first question, which talk about the preventive program. So the first question is really, which best describe your current preventive PM program, assuming you do have one? So Rona, you want to run this?
Sure. So we're just going to take a moment and open up a poll, if we may, and just go ahead and let, so Frederic knows kind of who's on the line with us today and where are you in your journey toward preventive maintenance. You don't use technologies, you'd like to get started. Well, maybe you use a little bit of technology and you'd like to do more, or perhaps you're using it extensively and just here to learn what's new, best practices. All right, now I know Frederic still has a lot of slides to go through, so we're going to make this a pretty quick poll, and I'll leave it open a few more seconds. It looks like we've had about 2/3 of the votes in. Just let us know where you are. These are all anonymous, no wrong answers here, okay? All right, let's go ahead and share the results. So Frederic, it looks like 18%, almost a fifth, say they're not currently using technologies, but would like to get started. Over half, 52%, saying we're using technology a little, but want to do more. And I know that's what I hear most often from eMaint customers. And then number three, 30% are using PM technologies extensively. All right, so back to you, Frederic.
Okay, thanks. So it actually does speak volume here, because when you look at it, you have 82% of the people who voted who are using some form of PM technology, either a little bit or extensively, which is a good sign. Now we just need to turn the other 18% into start using it and maybe start a program on it. But this is actually pretty much in line with what I hear from our customers who they have a basic PM program, and it could be a vibration program, it could be as simple as a thermal program, but they wanted to do a lot more because they've been asking to, or because they realize the value of getting the data and do this on a regular basis. So let me see, let me take over. There we go. So as we move forward, when we think about proactive maintenance, there's really four topics in order to make this successful, or four strategy. Obviously, I highlighted the technology selection, and we'll see this in a little bit. But I think then the other three are as critical. So obviously, there's a focus on failure modes to try to maintain all of our equipment online at all time. And so they need to, most of our customers look at it to try to prioritize often the tier 1 versus tier 2. What are the type of equipment do we need to monitor? What type of the equipment do we need to PM on a regular basis? And so having said that, it's really a critical aspect on what do I really need to pay attention in order to establish a program. The second thing, and I think then really it goes often it's a lot more important than we think it is really the buy-in from leadership. And what I mean by this is that often technician, engineer, reliability engineer, even maintenance manager may actually see the value of it because they're working every day either with the equipment or with the assets or with the PM technology. But often in order for us to move forward, and I hear this from customers, they say, I need to convince my manager, I need to convince my plant owner, then this program is actually going to have a good return on investment. Obviously, some of those programs do take time to actually be put in place. There's just no question about it. And the return on investment may not be direct, but putting some kind of a plan together, presenting to the leadership, and really have their buy-in will go a long way in order for you and for any of our customers to move forward. And sometimes it can be a hurdle. And once you have a buy-in from leadership, it's a lot easier to actually move forward with any of the programs, as long as obviously you keep track on your certain KPI and your progress. But it always can be a challenge. The last one, besides the technology selection that we'll talk more in details, is really the skill enhancement. And what I mean by this is looking at your team and decide who has the skill needed in order to do this, to be part of the PM program and to actually run a PM program. It's very similar than when you actually, if you're a service manager or any kind of manager, you want to look at your team, and there's certain people on your team who have more skill than others, and you want to make sure then you select the right people, and the people who don't necessarily have the skill yet, then you have the proper training, either with the technology manufacturer, or either it could be about preventive programming on itself. And there's a lot more program available these days about reliability, how to start a program. Even some of the manufacturers help you to actually have a pretty good idea on how to start a program with the technology. So one of the things that I like to show in some of our presentation, to try to make as easy as straightforward, is really to have 3 pillars to successful proactive maintenance. Obviously, the first one, because the reason why I'm saying this, a lot of our customers are telling us, well, where do I start? How do I actually even begin thinking about having a proactive maintenance program that works? Well, the number one is really how to start. You need to start a new program. And you have to establish goals, you have to establish the staff buy-in, so who's going to be involved, who's not going to be involved, maybe having some survey internally on what's important for us, and you may also have some consulting. It could be internal, it could be external, but at the end of the day, you have to have a team that will support and they will work closely. So establishing that team is really a critical thing, and decide what you're going to work on it. I think the number 2, along as once you find out the team who is going to be part of the PM program, and along as what you need to monitor, is really the technology selections. Quite frankly, it does not have to be part of our company. Hopefully, it will be, but it's really picking the right tool for the right job. And I can't say this enough. I've seen too many times in my days where customers are not picking the right tool or the right equipment for the job that they need to do. And often that can be a detractor versus being a positive aspect. And so that could be a screening tool, a troubleshooting tool, a diagnostic tool. I mean, there's multiple tools for preventive maintenance and level of difficulties of the tools than you can have. I think then the easier, the better. It doesn't have to be a complicated tool that an expert needs to run. It could be as simple as a basic screening tools. Even a good digital multimeters is a good start, but as long as it's done regularly at a good interval, then you start to capturing data. And a lot of with the technology selection also means then more and more our tools are becoming wireless. So the wireless capability with the tool is a huge factor, either from a safety aspect, from an ease of use aspect, which means you can download and upload the data into the cloud almost directly as you're performing the PM route. The last aspect really is, and that's where it comes down altogether, is really the data management. So once you have this tool, and assuming that most of them you can transfer the data to the cloud or even to your software and then provide a report, is really what do you do with the data? Because when you think of it, about a PM program, in order to move from reactive to preventive and even to predictive, what it comes down to, it's about the data. And what that means is that once I capture the data, what do I do with it? Who looks at it? What type of decision can I make with the data that I'm receiving? Obviously, there could be a tremendous amount of data, but you have to comb through it to figure out what's really is important and how do I advance my PM program to actually be efficient. The idea is also be able to share the data and with anyone within the facility. And I think one of the important is documentation. So there's a lot of compliance, depending on the market, there's a lot of compliance they require in providing reports. Take a simple example is if you do a thermal imaging on facilities, the insurance company may actually require you to provide reports on once a year on some of the key equipment, or even it could be the doors, the wall, or anything in order to be protected. I've heard this many times. Then insurance company are really big on providing a report. It could be in the food and beverage industry. It could be is an agency, government agency requires you to provide also a report, which it has to have some data, it has to maybe have some pictures and a full report. Well, having this ability to download the data directly really removes the pencil, paper, and Excel spreadsheet that you would have regularly. So when you think about the technology selection, and I'll take this as the example, we can talk more in details about the data and so forth, is really we try to break it down to about 3 or 4 buckets. The first one is really about the screening. And really the way we do this is, the reason why we actually put in 3 or 4 buckets is it really depends on 2 things. The type of tools that usually our customers are having, and also the level of comfort that they have by capturing the data or looking at the data and how to use them. And so those often go hand in hand, because it has to be a level of comfort. You can't just give customers vibration meters who does a bunch of diagnosis and you don't know how to use it, or you need an expert to read the data in order to look at it and make decisions. So often by starting small for any type of program is often the best solution. So you would have often a screening tool, could be a simple tool. Then you can move to having a diagnostic tools. So often we think about either vibrations, you can think about power quality. Those are, you can capture the data, but those are much more for experts to look at the data, as well as a power logger, and thermal imaging. So thermal imaging could be as much as a screening tool, a diagnosis tool as well. There's various levels on thermal imaging, from level 1 to level 3, depending on the experience. And quite frankly, I use this all the time for either for a quick shot, or I would take maybe a lot more pictures, a lot more detail, different angles, because I need to look at a particular asset a lot more in details. And at the end, it really is verify and report. So it's great to do PM, but if you don't verify and you don't provide a good documentation, it has no bearing whatsoever. And I'll take a quick example that I hear often enough to mention. Few of our customers who have distribution centers across the U.S. Often I start to dabbling a little bit with PM. They may have a small PM, but it's really not regular. And what they do is a few of them actually have a third-party company who do thermal imaging. And they say, hey, can you please look at, we have about 300 or 400 assets. Can you please take a picture of all the assets on a regular basis? And they do this once a year. Once that third-party company complete the verification, they provide a report, and with recommendation, you have these 59 assets that need to be looked at. Most of them are looking good. But the thing is, and I always ask the question, say, it's great. You get this report, you make the change on these assets. But after that, do you take another picture to make sure that the change you have provided actually have resolved the problems? And quite often I hear, no, we don't. We just assume it's going to work. Or we just don't have the technology in order to do a follow-up. And I think then slowly, what we're trying to do to educate our customers is not just to rely on the third party for that initial verification, but also have the ability for their team to have some basic understanding on either vibration, electrical, or mechanical and thermal to be able to look at some of the changes they have made. So that's how we approach our customers and try to do and report those changes. So as we move forward, I start to mention a little bit about the wireless connectivity. So this is kind of an example of how we have viewed this and why we think this is important. There's just no question, and as we move forward from a company, we are actually coming out with tools that have wireless capability, along with condition monitoring that we'll talk in a few minutes. But it was important for us to, regardless of the type of tools, to really provide this feature for our customers. Then I can capture data and I can directly transfer the data onto either my iPhone or my tablet, or it could be online as well. And I have the data you can share. And why I mentioned this, you have few of our customers who I mentioned is really critical in terms of the timing. An example is I had recently a customer who mentioned to me, say, when we have the train that comes out in the yard, we need to actually take a thermal picture of the bearings. And I was asking them exactly what were they doing with those pictures. And they said, well, we are here downtown, and the engineering team is about 15 miles away. So if I have the ability to take a thermal imagery and I can upload this onto the cloud, it can be shared within minutes within the engineering team, and they can look at the pictures and determine if we need to actually replace the bearing or not. And in this case, it's a matter of having, first of all, it is costly to replace the bearing. So if there's a need to do this, they want to do this because there's a good need, and not just because they want to replace the bearing. So from a cost standpoint and time standpoint, it's important. Secondly, it's a pretty involved project. And third, from a safety aspect, if they don't change the bearing, there's a potential then if it continues to get worse, then that train could derail. So that is a big issue right there. So having the ability to share the data wirelessly and online, it really is a critical factor. Then a lot of our customers have asked for it and actually are looking for it to use every day. So once you start talking about it, the proactive maintenance, how you're going to do your program is really important. And our customers tend to be in various levels on how they're looking at it. I think then some of the basic foundation for us is really, at least the way we see it, is really about, number one is about you need to establish a baseline. So if you start looking at all your motor within your facility, or all your pumps, your electrical panel for that matters, is really where we are with this equipment. Without knowing where you are, regardless if it's a brand new equipment or if it's already an existing equipment from a few years, you have to establish some kind of baseline. Obviously, if the equipment is new, establish a baseline, it's even probably easier and you have good data right there. But establishing baseline is really kind of where it all started. The number two, along with this, is really to start trending. And what I mean by trending is really about looking at the data on a regular basis at a certain interval from the same type of assets. Just saying then, hey, we're going to take the volt and amperage on this motor as well as the temperature, maybe thermal and the vibration on these equipment, and then you do this once or twice a year, may not be very useful. you need to try to start training more on a regular basis. Obviously, depending on the interval needed, the number of people you have in your facility, they can do this. But really, the trending is when you want to identify some trends and some issues that really could help you down the road, not to have to repair, or to repair, but not having a failure of your equipment. And the third and foremost, really, along with the trending, is really the analysis. I think then we've talked, and you can see then those words keep coming back over and over, is really to try to identify, based on your potential failure curve, where you are with your assets, and what action do you need to take. And obviously, what comes in play, it can help with this, is really the condition monitoring aspect, as well as the condition base. So I've taken a couple of examples, and obviously this could apply to just about everyone in a lot of different markets and situations. Is really the two things that I'll talk about is really about thermal and vibration. Obviously, electrical power quality can be intrinsically part of it, but I kind of wanted to focus because it kind of covers a lot of them. Do a baseline with infrared camera. That's often an easy way to do it. You take your camera. We often explain to customers, hey, why don't you go and look at all your motors, all your pumps, all your electrical panel, anything. For that matters, you can look if you have any leaks, if you have any issue with the buildings. So there's the tank levels. I mean, there's a number of things from a thermal camera aspect, a picture, then you can take. So you can have hot spots, insulation in pipes, faulty terminal, that's a big one right there on the electrical panels. Identify fuse, rating capacity, electrical switch gear, process temperature change, bearings, temperature change. And so establishing a baseline when you start is really give you an idea of where you are. Obviously, if you have existing motors, and you know what the nameplate is on the rating, you can already identify where you are within that baseline. Because your motor may already be run way too hot than it's supposed to be. So looking at really the manufacturing spec, as long as establish the baseline, goes hand in hand for me in order to really establish a good baseline. Along with this, you can also do a baseline with vibration, and it could be a tester and meter. And really, a baseline for that could be as easy as a screening, or even as complicated, really a diagnosis. Most of the time, our customer will do a screening. So they'll go around with a vibration meter, and they walk around with all the motors, and within a half a day, they have established where each of the bearings motor on the front and on the rear are. And I think then that has a lot of help. That has a lot of power in order to resolve an issue. I'll take an easy example why the screening and establish a baseline is actually critical. About a few months ago, I was with a customer. We were doing some testing and condition monitoring. And as we were waiting, I told him, say, why don't we walk around your facility? I know you have quite a few 30 horsepower motors. They're critical for you. And I know you have not established a baseline. So let's just take about five motors and look at the bearings on each side. So we did this, and come to find out on 4 of them, they're actually within range. And on the last one, they hadn't done any maintenance whatsoever in probably a few weeks, if not a few months. And they did not have at the time any vibration condition monitoring installed on each of the motor. So we ended up testing some of these, and on the last one, we did find out then the bearing was actually getting warmer. We could see the temperature was getting warmer, as well as from a vibration standpoint, we saw the reading going up. And so I showed it to him, grabbed the data, upload the data on the cloud, and then what we told him, I said, you know what, we're not going to take the motor offline, but why don't we just add some grease right now and come back in 2 hours, And then what we'll do, we'll take the exact same data at the exact same spot, and we'll see if that make any change. So we did this, and really we were surprised to find out that just by adding a little bit of grease and doing a very quick screen check, we were able to actually find an issue, resolve that issue, and not having to take down the motors for repair and potentially avoid a failure. And so those are the quick things from a screening and baselining standpoint that you can do on vibration that can really help start getting confidence in the technology, but as well as this will make an impact for my preventive program. So obviously, along with the baseline is really the trending, and the trending really is to try to establish a scheduled route for either thermal imaging or vibration, as you'll see on the next one. And I think the most important one thing that I like to do is really to provide the data with a report. So do a quick report. It's great to capture 50 pictures, but if you don't look at it, if you don't trend them, it has no point. You want to be able to look at it from either the previous PM or on a weekly basis. If you take the picture at the exact location, the exact same spot, you look at the motor, and if you start seeing then the temperature increase or decrease in certain instance application, then at that point, that's an indication. Obviously, with a thermal camera, you're talking about data, then you can look over a period of days or weeks. So that gives you a little more leadway. But nonetheless, trending the data is really critical the way you're looking at it. Same thing goes along for the trending with the vibration meter. So a simple screening, as an example, you can see the picture on the top right hand right there. That's a perfect example. We can walk around the plant with the simple tools and capturing a lot of data. Just part of the example that I was giving you. You want to look at the same location, same spot, and hopefully this will identify early issue in order to be planned. You can plan your downtime or be part of your routine maintenance before you actually use a diagnosing tool, if you needed to. The last portion is I've talked a little bit about already on previous slide, is really about the analysis in the software, and it really speaks volume to actually having for us a partner with eMaint, because there's really a value of having a CMMS and not only just having the data. And at the end of the day, when you look at it, and I mentioned this before, it's great to have the technology to capture the data, but it's really about what do I do with those data. That's what it comes down to, and that's what customer I keep talking to me about it. Plant manager that we have discussion, it's much more, if you have the data, how can I help you save 10% of your preventive maintenance cost or on your maintenance cost? How can I avoid then, instead of replacing 34 motors a year or having $100,000 in repair, that we can reduce this by half? Then by looking at the data, either trending and do analysis, either to a CMMS software, to a basic software, for that matter, sometimes you just need to do alarming, and then you can report this on the spreadsheet. Those are the basic things, then you want to look at it. That being said, you can sometimes be overwhelmed by the amount of data that's coming back. And I think then as you establish a preventive program, it's important to say, what are some key data that we absolutely need to look at it? There may just be three types of data that you want to look at it: times of running, machine repair time, and so forth. And that's up to you to establish this based on the preventive maintenance work that you need to do. But really is the ability to have the data downloaded wirelessly if all possible, and capture automatically, and do this on a constant basis, on a regular basis. So I have one more question that I want to see, and Rona, if you don't mind to run this. The question is really about what type of monitoring does your facility currently perform? or would like to implement as part of their preventive maintenance or condition-based maintenance.
Okay, well, I've launched the poll, and again, if you can let Frederic know what type of monitoring you're currently doing or your facility is currently performing or are interested in performing based on what you've learned today. All right, and just so we understand who's on the line with us, we'll leave this open to let you all cast your votes. A few more seconds. All right, looks like about 3/4 of the votes in. And again, this is either what you're doing today or at least what you feel you should be doing based on what you've learned. All right, let me go ahead and share the results. So it looks like, Frederic, 17% of our listeners say temperature monitoring, 23%, or nearly a quarter, say voltage and current, 21% say vibration, 34%, or just over a third, say thermal imaging, and 5% ultrasound. All right, back to you, Frederic.
Okay, that sounds about right, and it kind of goes along with the first question that I was asking about what kind of technology are you using. For at least from what I'm hearing from customers and seeing is that a lot of customers tend to feel comfortable with the thermal imaging picture, and that may be the first technology they actually start as a part of their PM program evolution or maintenance. And often what they try to do is move from a thermal to a vibration. So when you look at it, some of the answers that you provided, in the top three, you have definitely the temperature, thermal imaging, and the vibration. So it really does speak about where customers are, what customers are thinking, and where really they're heading. Couple more slides, and then I'll let you ask some questions. So one of the things the customer asks, why are we doing this? So this kind of speak in general, why are we doing the condition-based maintenance? And this is what we put together. And then really the goal, when you think of it, is really making a system of record for maintenance teams. And what we mean by this is there's really three ways that we accomplish this. So if you look on the left side, it's really about easy data entry from the tool for PM round. So using the wireless capability tool, using the right tool and the right technology is really a critical aspect to really gathering the data and in order to provide this to the cloud. And those are stuff that we're doing right now. We're moving on. Think of it for a second, if you can have your any of your wireless tools at your hand, like a thermal imager, and if you directly into the cloud, into a CMMS platform. I mean, that's something that really speaks volume and is powerful in order to make decisions from preventive maintenance, work order types, alarms, work management, condition monitoring for that aspect as well. The second thing is really about, when you look on the right side, is really the condition monitoring piece. So a lot of our customers are starting to work more and more and establish PM programs using the right tool and technology, as well as the right methods that goes along. In parallel to this, there may be a few equipment who are causing troubles or needs further evaluation, or simply needs to be monitored on a continuous basis. That's where the condition monitoring and the wireless piece of it really has a big factor. It comes in play. So this is why we actually, as a company, have decided to be able to offer the complete, if you want, the complete solution for our customers. Say, hey, we know you're doing PM. You may find that this motor needs to be looked at it for the next 3 or 4 weeks because you have suspicion or initial PM have shown you, then you need to monitor this on a regular basis. And so condition monitoring is a big piece of it. And at the end of the day, is as long as all the data end up into the cloud, through an alarms, work orders, it could be condition management, condition-based work order management, or simply RAP-based. this is a critical aspect. And quite frankly, when you think of it, probably within the next 3 to 5 years, there will be very few equipment they would not want to be on the wireless and have the wireless capability, either from a condition monitoring or from a simple everyday PM tool. And the last one I wanted to mention to you is a quick example really on the customers that has been working with us, and what they have done is their issue was they had so many pieces of equipment. They have, I think, over 100,000 pieces of equipment with the same amount of number of technicians. And obviously, they can't touch every single one of them. It's just not possible. So what they have done is they wanted to see, is it really, their question from the reliability maintenance manager, could they increase the number of machines that receive some degree of the predictive inspection and tracking, obviously, without increasing the number of engineers. So what they put in place, they did a quick test over a period of, I think, a few weeks or a few months, is that they wanted to collect the right data. And what I mean the right data is that taking under the right measurement with the right circumstance on the right part of the machine at the right level of data accuracy. And so what that means is that the engineer could actually get enough information to analyze and provide some recommendations. So what they've done, they've taken thermal and vibration, and essentially they were able to capture those data on a regular basis and really upload the data to the cloud. In that aspect, the reliability engineer was able to review and, the engineer was able to receive and review the data needed to see the change and make actually the right decision based on this. What that meant, it also meant that they increased the level of a touch point for each of the assets. And so they were able to move a lot faster with the same amount of engineer within their facility. And that was, for them, that was a big factor right there to be able to catch some of the preventive issues. So I think that concludes a good portion. Rona, do we want to go to, is there a couple of questions? I know we have about 5 minutes left.
Yes, thank you, Frederic. We've had several people write in to get some clarity. If they're currently using the tools and they want to go wireless, let's say it looks like most of them were looking at vibration, thermal imaging. Can you explain, is that a separate tool, or how do you go about if you're currently using tools today and want to be wireless?
So there's really two ways to look at it. Depending on the type of tool, obviously it's easier if your tool is similar than a Fluke Connect, which is wireless, and you can connect that to your phone or to a tablet and goes directly onto the cloud. But there's also a way then some of our, not just ours, but even other manufacturers, well, their tools can be within the software. So you can download the data into the software and import the software data into either a spreadsheet or a report. At the end of the day, when you look at it, having the wireless capability is a big plus. And either it could be a point-to-point or Wi-Fi, it could be simpler Bluetooth. But downloading the data as you capture them wirelessly is the key point. Now, how do you do this? Is you have to look at the type of tool that you have, and if it has the capability to be wireless, and if it doesn't, it may be well worth it to invest on upgrading that tool in order to have a wireless one. A lot of our tools are wireless, 40 or 50 of them. Some of them are still not, and we are actually in a process over the next few years to actually incorporate the wireless capability to all of our tools. So you just have to look at it on what type of tool you currently have and what do you need to move forward for that.
Okay. Frederic, in the interest of time, we've had many people ask about integration with CMMS. Can you go to the next slide for a moment? I'm afraid we're about out of time, and some people are really asking more about the tools, about the integration with their CMMS, and how do you go about doing some of the things that we've talked about. So which can be a whole other webinar of itself, but I would like to say, guys, though we're out of time for this hour, Frederic and other members of his team are going to be visiting, going out, hitting the road, and going to multiple cities over the course of the next month to really do some demonstrations, to kind of preview some of the integrations that we're working on, as well as let you get hands-on with the different tools that are available. So we invite you to come. We'll send some more information about these to you. And so, again, thank you so much, Frederic, for really sharing your experience and giving some practical tips on how to get started on this journey. We really do appreciate it. Again, for our listeners out there, I'm sorry there were so many of you and so many questions, we couldn't get to all of them. We'll try to get you some answers after the webinar. We hope that you'll also, if you are happen to be near one of the cities where we'll be, come and stop by and meet Frederic and his team and members of the eMaint team who can help you farther along this journey. So thanks again to Frederic and our SMEs at Fluke. Thank you for our listeners for joining us. Please take a moment when we're done. When I end the webinar, there will be a brief survey. Let us know some other topics you'd like us to bring. Frederic and his team have a wealth of knowledge on so many different topics, and we want to make sure we're delivering the content that you want to see. So thank you, Frederic.
Thank you.
Thanks to our listeners. We hope to see you in one of these cities, and if not, we'll be on the webinar waves next month. Thanks again.